What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Word. As always, I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And before I start these, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only, and to always do your own research to come to your own conclusions, to have your own answers, to make your own decisions. And I believe in your ability to do so, to be your own person. So, as my returning babies know, I'm reading Start Where You Are, and we're on chapter 15. And if you're new, you can go back. All the chapters are listed. And it's basically just trying to get you to exactly what it says, start where you are in reaching a higher level of understanding or a higher level of awareness for yourself. So, with that being said, I upload Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I have an audio version of the podcast anywhere you can find audio podcasts, and I have a video version of the podcast on YouTube. They're both named The Spiritual Word. I'm your host, Jackie. If science, psychology, spirituality, self-help, and philosophy are things you're interested in, those are my main 5 topics. And I recommend subbing or following if those are things you're into. So with that being said, I'm going to get into chapter 15. And then I'm going to go back and talk about what chapter 13, 14, and 15 were about. Just because I feel like I've been kind of like rushing through these last couple of chapters, so I don't want to rush. So we're going to get right into it. 15. Lighten up. The next slogan, always maintain only a joyful mind. And if you practice this even when you're distracted, you are well trained. Go hand in hand. Even if you practice when you're distracted, you are well trained. Go hand in hand. The first is saying that if you regard everything that arises as fuel to wake up, you can remain cheerful. The second saying is that if you're well trained, you can do that. Use everything in your life to wake yourself up rather than to put yourself to sleep, no matter what. If you feel completely caught up and spinning off into misery scenarios, the slogan, if you can practice this even when you're distracted, you're well trained. You can If you practice this even while you're distracted, you are well trained. Can remind you to start with the Toglen. To breathe in the mishap and misery as a way of developing compassion for yourself and as beginning to understand others' pain as well. You can use the distraction to bring yourself back to the present moment, just as a horse rights itself after losing balance, or skiers catch themselves as they're about to fall. Being well trained means that you can catch yourself and come back to the present. When things are going well, that can also be a reminder. Instead of a habitual clinging to what is delightful, you can be accustomed to giving it away, sending it out to others on the out breath. This enables you always to maintain a joyful mind. It begins to ease away the burdens of maintaining your own private happiness, as well as the usual load of unhappy situations and minor irritations, the burdens of the ego. On the other hand, sending out joyful stuff is also difficult to do. As someone said, I like doing the out breath with this idea of sharing. Sharing is really nice, but giving it away, that means I couldn't have it anymore. It means I wouldn't have it anymore. The out breath and sharing is what's pleasant and can be threatening. You don't have to feel willingly to share or give away that pleasure. There's a lot of joy as your burdens begin to lessen. And it comes from doing anything that begins to change the pattern of fearing and wanting to resist what's unpleasant. Resistance is what causes pain, more than anger itself, or more than jealousy itself. It's resistance that causes the pain. Anything that begins to anything that begins to lighten up Lighten up that resistance helps us to relax and celebrate. Open and celebrate. Sooner than later, you'll find yourself in a situation where you can't change the outer circumstances at all, and you realize it comes down to how you can relate to things. Whether you continue to struggle against everything that's coming at you, or you begin to work with things. Always maintain a joyful mind. Always maintain a joyful mind can be very helpful to remember in any situation. Anything that helps us not to be so desperate about pleasure and not to fear its transitory nature is also introducing us to being at home with the world and being able to help others. In popular songs you hear lines like, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. I've got plenty of nothing, and nothing is plenty for me. Great bliss arises from the experience of emptiness. It's how it's described traditionally Tibetan text, which sounds somewhat remote from personal experience. However, all these words are saying the same thing. We practice, we live in order to be able to relax and lighten up, and to not make such a big deal out of everything that happens. The success and the failures, the rewards and the punishments. If your principal witness is a judgmental authority figure. Sorry about that. If your principal witness is a judgmental authority figure, it might be too hard to lighten up. But let's say you're meditating, and on the other hand, but there is you standing behind with a stick saying, you're thinking again. You're always thinking, whack. Where there the Toglen bell and you didn't hear. But there you are. Sorry. You're thinking again. You're always thinking, whack. There goes the Toglen bell, and you didn't practice Toglen for a second. Smack. You say to yourself, I can't do this, I'm hopeless. Everyone else seems to be doing fine. But I don't seem to get any basic goodness. Then you beat yourself up and forget all about gentleness. Or if you remember, you say, you're not gentle. Whack. You remember the Toglen say, you hear a slogan like, always maintain a joyful mind, and for the next 2 weeks, you're hitting yourself all over the head for never being joyful. That kind of witness is a bit heavy, so lighten up. Don't make such a big deal. The key to feeling at home in your body, mind, and emotions, to feel worthy to live on this planet, comes from being able to lighten up. This earnest, I don't know how to say that. Anyways, this seriousness about everything in our lives including practice, this goal-oriented, we're going to do this or else attitude, is this world's greatest killjoy. There is no sense of appreciation because we're so solemn about everything. In contrast, a joyful mind is very ordinary and relaxed. Once on retreat, I was reading some traditional text that talked about bliss and special experiences. I began to feel wretched. I felt poverty-stricken about having never experienced that felt like bliss, clarity, or luminosity. I began to feel depressed. I didn't measure up to any of these glowing words. Fortunately, I put that book back down and picked up something simple about being alive with who you are right now. Nothing special, no big deal, ordinary. Just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, stay awake. Those simple instructions began to cheer me up because I felt that I could follow them. Them when your aspiration is to lighten up, you begin to have a sense of humor. Things just keep changing. Things just keep popping your serious states of mind. In addition to the sense of humor, a basic support for a joyful mind is curiosity. Paying attention, taking an interest in the world around you. But you don't actually have to be happy. But being curious without a heavy judgmental attitude helps. If you are judgmental, you are curious. You can even be curious about that. Notice everything, appreciate everything, include the ordinary. And that's how you click with joyfulness or cheerfulness. Curiosity encourages cheering up. So, does simply remembering to do something different. We're so locked into the sense of burden, big deal joy, big deal unhappiness. There's sometimes a helpful just to change the pattern. It's sometimes helpful just to change the pattern. Anything out of the ordinary will help. The Toglin is definitely something different. This practice about repatterning, this practice of repatterning ourselves changes the basic pattern and unpatterns ourselves altogether. You can just go out the window, look out the sky. You can just go out to the window, look at the sky. You can splash cold water on your face. You can sing in the shower. You can go jogging. Anything that's against your usual pattern. That's how things start to that's how things start to lighten up. I read this story about a woman who had been gloomy all her life, and as she grew older, she got more irritated and more difficult. Then she got cancer for some particular reason. After an initial period of resistance and anger, instead of getting more gloomy, she began to cheer up. The more she fell apart, the happier she got. She kept saying she was glad that she had time to enjoy her life, which she had not enjoyed up until the moment that she got sick. Finally, the day that she died, she went into a coma. Everybody in her family, who were coming to feel more and more fond of her after all those years of finding her in pain, a pain in the neck, gathered around her bed crying, looking gloomy. And as she used to look, just before she died, she opened her eyes to see them all standing there, and she goes, "Gosh, look at you, so unhappy. Something wrong?" She laughed and died. She died laughing. So, always maintain a joyful mind, and if you practice even when distracted, you are well trained. Are implying that the best gift you can give yourself is to lighten up. One way to do that is to let distractions bring you back to the present moment. Another way is to be curious. In addition, when things are really heavy and you feel stuck in either joy or misery, just do something different to change the pattern. And Toglin is a good suggestion of what you could do. So that was 15. I like that one. That one was cute. Let's see. Let's do 14. Oh no, I already did the explanation of 14, so we'll just do 15. So, this one I was thinking about yesterday. Because I find myself getting upset over things that I shouldn't really be getting upset over. And it's not that, like, I shouldn't, but in the hindsight of things, I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, when people come to... Oh, this is something that I was thinking about too, before I even get into that, because this is how I got there. So I was sitting here and thinking about the last couple of chapters, but overall I just think about the book in general. And I was thinking about how when certain people acquire certain things, it changes something in them. It changes their mentality. And I don't know if you're into like rap, because I love music, and right now Kendrick and Drake are beefing. And obviously Drake is not even American. Drake is from Canada, but he still says the N-word because he's dark complected, which I have no issue with because obviously that's not my issue. But there's still an issue there, like he's using all of our culture against us because he's here. You know what I mean? Like his his music and the things that he talks about, he swears that he basically swears that he's American and that his problems are here. And the way that he talks, he steals a lot of American culture. And I was thinking about this because I know so many people who really like him. And it's not that I have anything against him or that I love Kendrick, but I do love Kendrick. But that's besides the point. My thing, okay, so this is really complicated, but this is what I was thinking about. I was thinking about how fame really changes you and how fame did not change Kendrick and how he's still very, very humble. And it didn't change him because he knew who he was before he was. And people like Drake, they change because they didn't know who they were and they let the world shape them. And they let the outside circumstances shape them. And it's kind of like I was thinking about Chris Brown and how he hit Rihanna when they were together. And I was thinking about that and I was like, why would somebody get to that level of not necessarily anger, because I can understand getting to that level of angry, but I don't understand putting your hands on somebody else. And I can understand the appeal of wanting to hit somebody, like releasing that anger, but if you know that it's going to be publicly broadcasted, that's where it strikes me to be like, that's just who he is. Like, that's a part of him. And it's not something that the world could change, and even the circumstances that he's in, they didn't change him. And then I was thinking about that same thing with Drake. Maybe he was always this person, and people never saw that for that. Like people don't see the what things are for what they are because you're so blinded by what you want it to be. And I was thinking about that particular thing when it comes to fame and stuff like that. And it was a very interesting week, to say the least, for me, just because I was thinking about all these different things. And all these things, they seem to have no correlation to each other. Like, what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with my relative experience? What does that have to do with anything? And it made me realize that I have the conscious choice of being who I am every single step of the way, every single second of the day. And although I might not act like that's true because I'm so stuck in a pattern, it doesn't mean that the pattern is permanent, because nothing is permanent. And just like how everybody has the ability to be fluid and stuff, I everybody has that the capability to be fluid, but some people, they I don't want to say they have imposter syndrome, but some people let the world tell them who to be. And because people say, well, if you change, you were fake to begin with, and it wasn't real, then you don't want to be fake. You don't want to be perceived as fake. Although nothing is real, down to reality itself. And so the people who know that they're fluid have the capability of shapeshifting and changing who they want to be seen as and changing who they are and making really sharp turns when it comes to behavioral patterns because of their ability to know that nothing is set in stone. And I think it's more real to know that nothing is real than it is to sit here and claim to be the hardest or the strongest or the toughest or the loudest in the room or the smartest or the most athletic or the, most attractive. To me, all that is bullshit because everything is constantly changing. And I went to go to an interview because the reality of my situation is that, like, I don't have, um, well, I could, you know what? I'm not gonna say that. But basically, I went to an interview, and in this process, I was like, the only reason that I haven't been able to get a position anywhere that I've applied to, even though I've had multiple interviews, is because I was trying to fit their narrative of what they need instead of just being myself and allowing myself to attract the things that I want to attract and resisting, quite literally resisting. And so when I went to this one, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be myself. And myself is, has these moments of being anxious. I have moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out because I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. And sometimes in the moment, like, I'll freeze. And I'll freeze, but I'll come back to myself. And in moments where I freeze, I'm like, okay, why did I freeze? Like, it's not even that big a deal. Like, I literally went to this interview and they're like, where have you worked before? And I was like, I've never worked a day in my life, even though that's not true. And in that moment, I was like, it's okay. Like, just be yourself. And if yourself in this moment is nervous Nancy, then just be nervous Nancy. Like, it's fine. And I was also thinking about just like identity as a whole, because it's really incredible how fluid your identity actually is. And I always call myself a dual spirited individual. And for a moment, I kind of tricked myself into believing that I wasn't. And I tricked myself into believing that I wasn't because of the connotations that come with all of these different labels and all these different things. And obviously all this is just like rants in my own mind, but moral of this story, it's okay to change. It's okay to be different. And it's okay to lighten up, quite simply, like this chapter talks about. And I was thinking about lightening up after reading this book for some time, and obviously because I only read a chapter or a couple chapters a day, it stays in my mind the rest of the day. And I think it's a pattern that's very healthy for me, because like I don't read unless I have a reason to read. Like, unless I want to talk about this specific thing, then I'll read about that thing or I'll meditate on that thing, which is just something that I should be comfortable doing regardless. And anyways, there's no moral of this story. I just felt like ranting. Anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. And also, before I end this, I have a Discord for if you guys want to get in touch with me or get involved with the things that I'm posting, or give me comments, or just basically interact with me. And if you want to ask questions about certain things, we can talk about those questions and stuff like that. And I have a Discord for that specific thing, and the Discord invite to the community is in my Instagram's bio. So I'll have my Instagram both in the description and in the audio description. So yeah, go follow me, and then all of my links are there. So if you want to get in touch with me, that's the best way to do that. And I know that it's kind of difficult because you have to like go here and then go there and then, like, so much work, but be a real one. It's okay. I know it's a lot of work, but I'm working on that so I can make it easier for you guys. But it's also because you have to have like a certain amount of either followers or subs to be able to link shit. So because I can't do that, I'm stuck by having to tell you to go follow. Anyways, I'm end this here just because I'm literally not even talking about anything anymore. So anyways, thanks for being here and tuning in and tapping in. And as always, my babies, I love you and I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.